Dexter, the Pokedex. I'm the Magikarp salesman. I'm just doing the Pokemon stuff first. I'm Scyther. I'm Executor and Voltorb and all sorts. I'm probably like 30 different Pokemon as well. I worked on that show for the first 8 seasons, 10 years. I did about 8 movies. I also directed a lot of the other actors on that show. I directed Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. The original Yu-Gi-Oh! I did Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. I played Bastion on GX. Viva Pinata, I directed that. I played some characters on that. I'm Gowry from Slayers. I'm Meta Knight from Kirby. I'm Gus from Kirby. I'm Sword Knight and Blade Knight from Kirby. I'm Seto Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah. Thank you. Let's see. I'm High Tech from G.I. Joe. Let's see. What else am I? I've been a voice actor for about 25 years, maybe even longer. As well as a voice director. I'm also a singer-songwriter, which tomorrow night I'll be playing a concert in this fantastic room with this lovely view of whatever's out there. Normally when I do conventions, I have a panel where I talk about voice acting, how to get into that, or my directing background, but this is strictly the Q&A one, so you can ask me questions and hopefully I can answer them. But that's the story. So anybody want to ask me a question? We've got plenty of time. Samurai Dan, it is so good to see you. You have a doppelganger here, by the way. Not in this room.
Oh, I'm like, yeah, we look just alike. I'll let you, I'm going to go hit.
We don't like each other, but that was for the con.
It's in our contract.
Yeah, we have to pretend a little there. Yes.
Otherwise, we're just stabbing each other.
Yes, exactly. Please come and join. There's plenty of room here. You don't have to sit in the nosebleed seats, as we call them. So, does anyone have a question they want to ask me? Be brave. This is an anime con. There are no dumb questions. There's no silliness that will be judged other than, that was cool. Right? Ninja?
Sure. What was your favorite role you've played so far?
See, that's a tough question, because favorite role, I mean, there's so many things about all of the characters that I've played that are fun. There are definitely challenging roles, and then there's ones that I find amusing. You know, I'm always a fan of the comedic bad guys in anything. When I was a kid, and this is, of course, because I'm as old as dirt, this is way back before any of you guys probably even watched television, but there was a show called Wacky Racers. Okay, so Dick Dastardly and Muttley were the villains, right? But they were the comedic villains, and I actually was rooting for them the whole time. I could care less if any of the heroes won the race, because those guys made me laugh, and the more screen time they had, the more I would watch the show. So like with Team Rocket, you know, playing James from Team Rocket, the humor side, it really didn't matter what else was going on in the episode. I really could care less, because I had a short amount of time to be on screen and to make you laugh with the limited amount of dialogue they might have given, you know, Team Rocket, unless it was a Team Rocket episode. So that's a challenge. Because if you've got 20 minutes to, you know, develop the character or tell the story, great. But if you've got like, well, here's 5 lines, then we're gone, and here's 5 lines, then we're gone, you better make them great. And the writers at that time, the original writers on the show were brilliant. Remember, we as actors, we might ad-lib, which of course means make stuff up, right? Or twist a line around to make it a little bit funnier, or even make it a little darker if it needs to be more Kaiba-esque. But we rely on the writers. So if the script is awful, the challenge is beyond just acting. But when the script is great, that's fun. So the James stuff, the Team Rocket stuff from the early days was a lot of fun because it was so well written. And then with Kaiba, I mean, I think that to play a character where you have to walk that fine line of not being a villain but being a rival, because he's not evil. He's just there to push Yugi to be the champ. You can't be the champ if you don't have someone that's constantly challenging you, right? So how do you approach that without being completely hated and play it as it's like he's a villain? Interesting villains, you feel for them. I mean, how many of you guys really hate the Joker? You don't hate the Joker. He's bad, but you know that there's something about his character that you feel for him, There's a human side to it. So with Kaiba, I don't think of Kaiba as dark as that. But you realize that, so much of his bravado and his ego, that underneath that all, there's probably something that's vulnerable and that's human-like. I mean, if you read the manga and you know where his story comes from with his parents and all of that, you know that there's a side to him that wall he puts up is protective, right?
The virtual world art was the best.
Right. Exactly. So it's that kind of stuff. It's when you approach these characters, there's little pieces of each one of them that become your favorite. And especially if fans react to them. I like if a fan dresses up as Kaiba because they love the character, and I also like when someone goes, I can't stand Kaiba, he's such a jerk, because then I've accomplished my job, right? Right? I can't, if everyone just loved it or there was no reaction whatsoever, then maybe I didn't play him right. Yeah, exactly. That's great. There's a in the music business when we talk about marketing and stuff like that. You say things like to a young up and coming singer songwriter, maybe a female performer. You say you want to be an image where women would like to be you and men would like to be with you, right? And so it's the same thing with Kaiba. It's like guys, want to be him, and then there's those that also hate, like they just, but it's like, but if I had to be anybody, I guess the really wealthy, smart, good duelist, that would be a good character to be, right?
That's right.
All right. Who's got another question for me? Yeah.
Were you happy to take back your role as Kaiba during the Dark Side of the Dimension?
Yes, and I didn't have to take it back because no one took it from me. But yes, it was good to reprise the role because it was like the fans loved that story arc. Konami knew that. When we would make our appearances at the tournaments and stuff like that, it was always a big deal if it was Kaiba and Yugi, or if it was Kaiba dueling Joey, or I'm sure you've seen some of those crazy YouTube matches that we did, the live duels, which is a lot of fun to do. It was no secret that is the most popular story arc. So, of course, nobody wanted to touch it. The story was done. Sensei, the creator, was like, we're done. That story's done. But I think after so much fan sort of buzz about, like, we love these characters, and for him to come back and say, you know what, I've got another story to tell with them, it was very exciting. Of course, we knew it was in the works for at least 2 years before you guys did. So it was hard to keep our mouths shut. Where it was like, would you love to play Kaiba again? Yeah, that would be a great experience. But I love the fact that it's also the same. It's all the same cast members. I directed. That was the first show that I directed for 4Kids when they brought me in as the senior voice director there. That was the show they started with, and to be able to work with those actors again, though I didn't direct it, my good buddy Darren Dunstan, who plays Pegasus, directed that. He should have been in that too. They should have brought Pegasus in some way back to that. But it was so cool to do. And also what was nice was, and like, I'm a fan of the genre too. You gotta understand that I grew up watching. My favorite anime was Battle of the Planets, which is called Gatchaman, because Casey Kasem played the main character in that and voiced the English dub, and that's what I watched after school. And it was my first introduction to anime, and so I'm a geek too with this kind of stuff. I'm much more of a gamer geek than I am an anime geek, but I still love the genre. And when you do an adaptation of shows, you have to follow the rules of the country you're in. So a lot of times the fans will say, why did they take that gun out and turn it into a finger? Or why isn't that character smoking a cigarette like he is in the original anime? And you have to understand that every show that goes to network television, not cable television, has to follow the BS&P, which is Broadcast Standards and Practices. You're not allowed to show certain things at certain times during the Saturday morning. It's against the rules. And then advertisers will stop advertising during that time, and no one will pay for the show to be made, right? So when you see those changes, they come from the network. They don't come from the production company. The production company presents the show, and then the network says, you got to cut that out, change that line. You can't do that, right? So when you're working on a show that's darker, that's cooler, and you have to do those things, we, as the production company and the actors, we get a little frustrated too, because we're like, oh, really? That's not that big a deal now that the gun is not there, or the guy's not hanging off the end of the cliff and he's about to die. And now, who cares if he, you point that finger at him really angrily, right? Right? I'm going to point at you. Whatever, I'm leaving. So to do the movie where we were, even just the way it was approached, we didn't change anything. We didn't change the story. We didn't change, the movie's a little on the long side. But that's, the Japanese cinematic kind of thing. It's the music, the sound effects, everything is much more cinematic than what we would have done years ago for television. Like the movie gets kind of dark in a cool way and much more subtle. And that's what was fun for me was, 10 years later or however many years later. I mean, the show, I guess we started the show 17 years ago. So to come back and have the show a little bit more mature, or the movie more mature, the way that the fans have grown up, we grew up with you. I think it was very cool to be able to play Kaiba in a much more Batman way than yelling and screaming the whole time, and dueling. To me, the most exciting part about the whole movie is in between the duels. I mean, there's some great lines in the duel, but it's all of the other stuff to me that made the movie interesting. So, good question.